Welcome to the Sharpe Club. So happy to see you this evening. Yes, it is 9 p.m., a little bit after 9 p.m. on the East Coast, but it's Monday, which means it's not 7 p.m. It's got to be 9 p.m. And with this, whatever, daylight savings, is it really 9? Is it 10? Is it 8? I don't know. Anyway, my clock says 9. I'm saying it's 9. If you don't like it, I don't know where you are. But we are on the East Coast, and I'm glad that you were here. We are talking tonight about something which I think is very interesting. It is the criminal justice system in America. There are a lot of people who are happy and people who are unhappy, both about the system and how it works. And I brought a distinguished panel with me today. I mean, maybe distinguished, kind of distinguished-ish, comedian and podcast host, the man himself, AdamNutter. How are you, sir?
Good. No one's ever used distinguished and my name in the same sentence. So thanks. That was cool. First
there
and
we
last.
Go. See?
Always.
You have become distinguished now. Just hang out with me more, you'll be distinguished. Yes.
Damn. All right.
And an amazing activist, someone who has actually changed my mind on many things as we've had discussions. And she even changed my mind through Facebook posts, which is pretty challenging, but she has done it. She's been on my show before. Happy to have her again. Great activist, the one, the only Kirsten Tynan. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Great. Excellent. And the next person I want to bring on, some of you may not know this, and you libertarians are going to love this that I'm going to give you. Do you know that when the IRS takes you to court, they have a 99.75 conviction rate? Did you know that, Adam?
Nope. That's insane.
That is insane. But there's someone who has beaten them, the 0.25%, the man himself, a truly distinguished gentleman, a friend of mine, criminal defense attorney extraordinaire, the man himself, Vinoo Varghese. How are you, sir?
Hey, Larry, you should also have added that you actually helped us beat the IRS. So for all your fans, Larry was part of the team that beat the IRS at trial.
This is true. I was part of the team, but you led us through this, brother. Without you, it doesn't happen. So amazing, awesome, giving you all the credit. So with this in mind, what I want to bring up is what people who have been talking about this online as I posted this, most people were mad about crime, right? Crime is up. Crime is, going crazy. How are we going to fix this criminal system? You have half of the people saying it's not tough enough. Lock them all away, right? Lock them all up. Another part going, no, this is completely the wrong answer. And Adam, I know you were a cop in the past. Vin, you were both a prosecutor too, right? You've been on both sides of this. Is crime up, and what should we be doing about it?
I don't know if crime's up. I mean, it seems like it is, right? Because, I don't know. I feel like it's a little skewed. You see people I saw a pedophile got released on his own recognizance, but people for tax evasion, you guys know, will get in jail for 50 years. It's insane. So true. It's I think it's just, I feel like it's a progressive turn in the criminal justice system, and they're let everybody go except for white collar crimes or anything that nonviolent. That shit stays, but anybody else let's let back on the streets, and that's what I feel like is happening. So a lot of these repeat offenders just going out and just doing crazy shit because usually they're just also crazy people. So yeah, I don't know. That's my take on it.
I do see that, right? I mean, you do see the stuff on TikTok. You see the stuff on Twitter. You see the stuff on Facebook. You see it on YouTube, right? You see it. Guys go out, do the bad thing, come back, do something bad again. Or worse, what is it? Isn't there a couple of stores now that are leaving cities because of too much shoplifting? I live here in Queens, and there was a Walgreens or something like that. I forgot what it was. But the people literally said, I'm leaving because we were shoplifted out of business. And that was on their wall. So I'm with you, Adam. It feels like, I don't know the stats, but it feels like it's bad.
Well, the police commissioner was on New York One, Kishan Soul, within the last week, saying crime is down. And she was talking about the numbers of, certainly it appears some violent crimes have decreased, but other crimes have gone through the roof, particularly things you're talking about, Larry, with shoplifting and things like that, things that are quality of life. I think the feeling is, and you're a lifelong New Yorker, I've been here since I was, a baby. So, it's the feeling that you have walking the street late at night. Do you feel, especially here, if you're in Manhattan, like during, I went to college here, and when you were in college, and you had to watch your back. I mean, I was in the 90s, in the Dinkins days, So after that, Giuliani came in, cleaned up, whether rightly or wrongly, or however he did it. Bloomberg continued that. And the thing was, you could walk around, take the subway at 4 a.m. and not worry. I walk now because I just see it. I mean, this crime. There's also the homelessness. There's so many problems that are on the streets. And look, I'm a criminal defense attorney, but maybe some of your libertarian friends won't like this, and I consider myself libertarian philosophy. I am a law and order guy, and so there's so much here, particularly when you see things and you see like human feces everywhere, and you got all these problems and these shelters that are opening up, and you got breeding grounds. I mean, I'm at 2 Wall right here, basically at the base of my building, 100 Broadway technically, is they shut down. I mean, there were videos of all these things of people just walking in there taking stuff. And you have to deal with that as a mayor, as a city, and I'm not sure Adams is up to task. So I think there are a lot of problems.
I'm disappointed with him. I'm disappointed with him.
Kirsten,
come on, tell me. I know you're going to tell me I'm wrong.
I am. There's only so long my emotions won't show on my face.
I knew. Go ahead.
I think the question you asked is a big problem because it is so general. We can't address it in any reasonable way here. Is crime up or down as compared to when? A couple of years ago, probably a few things are up, a few serious things are up. But compared to the 90s, we're still a lot better than we were then. And what happened notably in the last couple of years, I'm sure some of you will remember that there was a little social upheaval of sorts due to the pandemic. And
the horrible lockdowns. I'm with you.
That may have some relation to some of these crimes that are up. So it really bothers me when I hear people saying, well, this one thing happened and so crime is up, because guess what? I can point to this one thing that happened and tell you crime is down, and that neither of us really knows anything from just that. One of the things that I think is important to keep in mind is that if we don't know what the relationship between what is going on in society is and how crime has changed, just calling for government to lock more people up or to repeal reforms that were actually important and necessary, that kind of knee-jerk reaction is a really bad idea. And just to bring this to the big picture, because I am a libertarian, I think one of the things we need to remember is that our founders really thought that the biggest problem was the danger of government, not the danger of our neighbors. Not that we don't have people in our communities who are dangerous, but that they're not a systematic danger the way government is. And if we decide we're going to deal with these individual crimes that take place by giving widespread powers to government, we're giving a lot of power to the most dangerous entity. And that is something that I think we'll regret in the future.
So there was a 22% increase in overall major crime in New York City in 2022 as compared to 2021, though there was a decrease, a significant drop in apparently shootings and murders, but overall violent crime was up. Burglary, robbery, big surges.
Oh, these guys got to hit the gun range then. They got to hit their targets better.
That's the problem. They're not training well. See, Adam knows the issue. That's the problem. Yes.
No, I think a lot of this is also just like I'm a big believer in like community-based act, like handle it as a community. Because like again, and I think you said something earlier that was you said the libertarian audience might not like this, but I'm a law and order guy, Vinoo, right? That's what you said. But like. I think this is a misconception of libertarians, like especially I know me and my friends. No, we do want law, but we just don't care about like nonviolent crime. Pretty much, that's where that's like the line. You know, it's like yeah, we don't want violent crime or theft either, because again, that's libertarian 101, right? Don't hurt people, don't take their stuff. So yeah, we don't want that. But when it comes to like, well, that guy was doing heroin in the park ago, I don't care. Like, you shouldn't, but that's not. I'm not your dad.
But what about the idea that, what Vin is saying, right? He's saying, look, yeah, the guy having feces on the floor or whatever may not be a violent crime, and it's not a violent crime. That's true. But we don't want a city with people shitting in the corner, right?
Sure.
We don't want that in our city, even though that's not a violent crime.
I think
and I probably, go ahead.
Still goes to quality of life.
Health code violation.
Yeah, it's still like you can still get hurt.
There we go.
By inhaling human shit. So
I'd be curious to know, Vinoo, how you think that should be dealt with. I presume you don't mean by locking people up, because that seems like a bit of an overreaction. But do you have something in mind?
Well,
me or Larry?
I mean, if I were running for mayor, I would start with the.
I would vote for you.
Keep. Look, I think you got to keep the streets safe. I mean, I think in our before we get on, when we're talking about topics, we talked about bail reform, much needed, by the way, in New York. Discovery reform, much needed in New York.
Yes.
So just let me just say one quick thing about something Adam said regarding people going to jail for tax evasion and things like that, nonviolent crime. I think that's the difference between state and fed, right? So in federal government, you're going to go to jail for a long time for nonviolent crimes, like fraud crimes, and I think they're out of whack in terms of actual reality and potential harm. The flip side of that is in New York, when you had the change in the bail laws, what it did was handcuff judges from tackling or putting bail on recidivists. So people that were released, and I agree, I think certain classes of crime should not have bail, and I think you shouldn't necessarily lock up somebody who can't afford to make bail. But however, when you're out, you get arrested again, then that judge should be able to put you or set bail, at least some sort of bail, and some sort of community monitoring. And that's the problem with New York, and it just went. It's what's the expression, you threw the baby out with the bathwater, is what they did with the bail reform. So you want to make sure you don't keep people in jail for crimes. And look, what's the worst, Larry? The biggest problem with prosecutors, I was one, right? But the biggest problem in New York, and I've been on, one of your shows, Larry, we talked about this, is the power that the prosecutor has. And we could devote entire shows. Kristen and I was looking at your website and what you're advocating for. I think we could have a spirited discussion about that.
I thought we might.
That being said, I think we could probably agree that prosecutors have way too much power, and I think that is a big discussion yourself. So, Larry, I'm going to leave it to you, man. I mean, how much you want to get into this? Talked about crime.
I remember when I was talking about it initially, right? When the bail reform package first came out, I was disappointed. I was happy it came out because I agree we needed it. I thought discovery changed. For those of you who don't know who are watching, how it would work. What discovery is, for those of you who don't know, it's basically when the person who's accused gets to see the evidence, right? That's basically what that is. The person who's accused gets to see the evidence. Before that, just the government keeps it. And before in New York State, and then please correct me if I'm wrong, they would hold it to almost the last minute. So they would keep, the state would keep all the evidence against you for literally months sometimes, and then give you 2 weeks or whatever the number is. Okay, good luck. Hopefully you can now, defend yourself.
How about 2 days? How about 2 days, Larry?
Oh, 2 days. There we go.
A day before you're starting trial. You're picking a jury in the morning. Here's the rest of the stuff we've been holding for a few years. Okay, it was an absolutely, so bail reform, discovery reform, two different things. You hear a lot of people complaining about discovery reform, but that's just lazy prosecutors here in New York who don't want to be fair and give the defendants a chance. And this, by the way, is even worse in the federal system. The difference is in New York, and the reason you have some of the high conviction rates in New York in the federal system is because the two big offices here, the Southern District of New York, the Eastern District of New York, they hold their discovery. Whereas I have a case in federal court in Texas right now, San Antonio. The prosecutor turned over everything. Wow. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. And they do that because they want to keep their conviction rates high. And on the federal level, Adam, unless there's a change by Congress, individual prosecuting officers are going to keep doing this kind of stuff. And in New York State, because of the change by the legislature, the biggest cowardly office was the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, always hiding their stuff, whereas the other 4 DA's offices, even Staten Island, had some form of open, file discovery system where they turned over everything, where they turned over stuff at least on a rolling basis. So now the Manhattan DA's office can't hide the way it hid, and that's why they used to have higher conviction rates. I think they still do.
If you don't have the evidence, how can you defend yourself?
Yeah, I don't like how you said "and Staten Island," but that's fine. It's fine. I'm not from there or anything. It's fine.
Where you putting your hat? What was with the hat?
Yeah, I'm from Staten Island.
There we go. Yes.
I don't live in New York anymore. I live in Pennsylvania for the last 8 years. And thank God.
Where in Pennsylvania?
Bucks County.
Ooh.
So it's right by Philly. Like 30 minutes from Philly.
North of Philly.
Yeah.
They have a good history of jury nullification activism. Just throwing that out there.
In Bucks County.
Ooh, I like that.
Oh, I did not know
There we
that.
go. You're in the right spot, Adam. You're in the right spot. That's good.
So does the Southern District of New York Court, which arrested someone handing out jury nullification information and lost.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah. Julian
I like
Heiklin.
There we go.
Wow, I learned something new. How long ago was that?
Several years, probably close to a decade. He has
Probably on First Amendment grounds, obviously.
Yep.
Right? There,
Yeah. An FBI agent came out of that courthouse, unbeknownst to the activist in question, and tried to get him to talk about a specific case, and apparently thought he had gotten him to say enough, though he hadn't, because as with our training, most people who do that know you don't talk about a specific case in progress. That's not, we don't tell jurors which way to vote. We just want them to know all their options. And that got thrown out before it even went to trial. But
very nice.
Yeah.
Look at that. Very nice. Yeah, I wish New York is terrible when it comes to jury nullification.
Mm-hmm.
It's terrible. I think most jurors believe there's no such thing. I think most jurors
maybe Kristen, you can tell me. I don't know. I know it's specifically not allowed in New York State. It's certainly not allowed in the Philly.
It absolutely is allowed in all of those places. The government just doesn't want people to know that they can't be punished for engaging in it.
Sure.
Lawyers aren't allowed to talk about it.
Yep.
The judge is allowed to lie about it to the jurors.
Well, there's an instruction, though. The judges give an instruction, both in state and federal court, that says, even before you get to the jury instruction, in juries, during the jury selection process, which we say voir dire in New York, but in the South, and my cousin Vinny, you hear voir dire, or maybe that's how they say it in Bucks County. I bet they might call it voir dire.
You just got disrespected there.
Instead of voir dire,
Italian trash, so that's what we do say.
So during the preliminary jury instructions, the judges instruct the juries that if anybody has a personal feeling it cannot be fair and impartial, step out. You're done. You don't have to be part of this. So there are people, and I always find this humorous. There are people who will say things and you're like, you're lying. You don't really believe what you're saying, right? They got to get out of jury duty. And I'm just like, man, just if we had more intelligent people who aren't so beholden to the government wanting to do jury duty, then we'd have a much fairer system. But unfortunately, the kind of people you want, often they always, as a lawyer, you say, okay, who's left, right? The people who aren't smart enough to get out of jury duty, right? And that's what we're.
I have a whole TED talk on that, literally.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it. And unfortunately, I get asked this question. People are like, "Hey, dude, how do I get out of jury duty?" I'm like, "Don't get out of jury duty, man. Do your duty."
Disagree.
I think more people would be. Yeah.
Burn it. Look at Adam's like, burn it all down. That's it. Yes, burn it all down.
I think more people would be interested in it if they didn't think that, if they weren't being tokenized by the system so much by things like they're being told they basically are there to judge the facts and not the law, which isn't true. They're being threatened if they have a hung jury and report that to the judge. They will be given instructions called the Allen charge, typically, that will essentially threaten and bully them into someone changing their mind. I've had people who thought if they didn't change their vote, they would never be able to go home. And I'm like, no. you stand with your gut. But they were like, well, I didn't think I would ever be allowed to leave if we couldn't agree. I have a quiz on my website. That is a thing most people get wrong. Like 40% of people think that you have to either come back guilty or not guilty, or you're there forever.
Wow.
There we go.
The Alex Murdaugh judge started jury deliberations after 5 p.m. After
Sometimes
this
they
long
will do it and
trial.
not give them their meal. They'll be
Yeah,
like,
it's
you don't need
that was insane.
9. Maybe we can get this done and send you home. And it's like,
What is this, like a CIA black site for jury selection?
Yes, that's exactly
So-
what it is.
so,
They put a black bag over your head.
Kirsten,
Light
sorry.
waterboarding, just a little waterboarding,
okay.
and then we'll get through this day.
When you say that jurors are allowed to do this, what do you mean? Because
I mean
a
that
little
they
bit
cannot be punished if they decide to engage in it. If you make clear,
That's fair, yeah.
if you make clear during deliberations that you're going to engage in jury nullification and one of your fellow jurors squeals, you can be removed from the jury, but
That's
you can't
correct.
be punished for it.
That's
it's
correct.
perfectly legal.
Sure, but you're going to get kicked off that jury.
Yeah, unless you keep your mouth shut, and I have training for that. So
There we go.
But jurors are instructed. You must follow the law.
yes,
You don't.
They're
I'm the judge of
instructed
the
a
law.
lot of-
You're the judge of the facts.
yeah, they're instructed a lot of false things. There are, I think, at least 2 circuits.
Okay, so I want to stop you there. When you say instructed by a lot of false things,
here we go.
why
Get him,
is
get
that
him.
false?
Yeah.
No. I'm just because I'm learning
Well,
something
the
new.
example I was going to give is much clearer, and that is that I think there are at least 2 circuits where judges have told jurors explicitly that there is no such thing as jury nullification, and that has been used as grounds for appeal. And the appeals court specifically said those things that were said were not true, but it's harmless error, so we're not going to give the defendant any sort of relief. That's my favorite despicable concept in the law: harmless error. Yes,
I
we
agree
broke
with you
the
on that.
law.
I
we're
could
gonna
not
forgive
agree with you
ourselves.
more on that. I'm 100% with you on that, on harmless error.
Yeah.
So, sorry, my sensor light went off. I got to wave.
That's okay.
You know?
Oh, good. So look, let me do a little bit of admin while we're here, guys. If you're watching this show and you like it, do me a favor, hit that like button right now. That's how we get past those algorithms. So if you're watching it, please do that. If you are watching this on Twitter right now, retweet this show. There's interesting, fun stuff happening right now. Please retweet it. If you want to support the show, you can. You can either super chat me if you want to, Larry Sharpe, YouTube super chat, or you can support my sponsor. And my sponsor, you can go to theadvocates.org. They have a police accountability survey. Take the police accountability survey. It is free. Take it and share it. If you share it, they are happy, and I am happy supporting my sponsors, and it costs you nothing. So please head over to the Advocates, take one of their surveys, or just take the world's smallest political quiz. Either one doesn't matter. But do me one more solid favor. There are 3 people here who have given you and me their time. Support them and follow them, either with the description that I gave on YouTube and or Facebook, or just follow them on Twitter. You can follow Adam at AdamNutter. And if you're listening to this in the podcast, Nutter. Yes. Also,
Yeah. I got it
why are
back.
you laughing at his name, Kirsten? It's not fair.
I'm not. I'm laughing at
So-
this. I'm like, I can never look cool doing that. I'm
So,
not
Adam, my admin wanted me to ask you, is that your real name?
Yes. Why the fuck would I make this a stage name? It's to get ridiculed publicly forever.
Yes.
It's
Why
crazy.
would you make that statement?
No, it's my
Because you're a comedian, right?
No.
It's a great name. It's a legendary name. You're not a comedian?
It's my no, I am that, but it's a shitty name to be for a comic. It's no, it's English. I'm a very Italian, but it's the English name stuck in the lineage. So there it is.
There we go.
Another is.
Okay, there we go. And follow our favorite attorney here. Please do that if you could at Varghese.
The only attorney here, right?
Yes, but still
done.
our favorite. Yes. So yes. And also please follow Kirsten if you would at FIJA National, which stands for
Fully Informed Jury Association, a name that was made up pre-Twitter. So
there we
we
go.
had
I like
to
that.
do
Very
something
good.
to fit it in one tweet.
So let me go to the other part, Adam. You used to be a cop.
Unfortunately.
Do cops do cops care either way how this works? What I hear, and this is what I hear that cops are leaving left and right in New York City. Cops are leaving all over the place, but bailing on New York City. And what I hear is they're mad mostly. Again, this is only what I hear, so I could be totally wrong. If you know something, please tell me. What I hear is they're mostly upset because they feel like they have no impact anymore. They feel like that doesn't matter what they do. So they're packing up and they're going to Florida and getting jobs there or retiring early. You have any insight?
I mean, truthfully, I gotta be honest with you. I mean, you know this about me. For all the new people listening, I hated that job the whole time. Hated it. I never identified as a cop. So once I left, that died to me, my life. I was like, that's dead to me. I'll never go back. So like, I only still talk to like 2 people, like honestly, from that time, and they're both out, and they both hated it as much as I did. They had more time on than I did. They were in the academy during 9/11, which sucks. Which sucks for them. But yeah, so like I out. So but like when I was on though, a lot of guys still hated it, and they were like, this sucks. Also, like New York City is, I bet you different than the cops where I am now in Bucks County, where there's 20 of them. Like it's just different. It's like a different world, right? So like I went from the biggest police department in the world, not even the country, the world. The NYPD is the biggest in the world. So like I went from that to like now I live in a place with like my wife's cousin's one of the cops. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's like that's what we're talking about. So I think the worlds are very different, for sure. I think also like, and this was always with the NYPD, they don't care about their employees, right? So like there's always a morale problem in that department with like leadership in the city, and it's a whole nightmare. No one be a cop. It's a nightmare. It's dumb. Don't do that job. It's stupid.
Don't be a cop.
It's so dumb. It's so
You're
dumb.
not helping, Adam. You're not helping.
Just don't do it.
So jurors or cops, which is it dumber to do?
Both.
Oh, I like that.
Oh, cop for sure.
I actually,
Cop,
let me clarify.
No,
so
you
there's
get
no
paid better as a cop, but
misconception.
you probably don't get shot as a juror. So
Yeah.
I did not. That's the expression what I mentioned, that those left of the jury were the ones not smart enough, who weren't smart enough to get off. That being said, I look for smart jurors, and I wish more people would want to do it. But Adam, where were you a cop, and for how long?
Staten Island, baby.
Staten Island?
122 precinct. What's up? No, I hated it. Everybody knows that. No, so I lived and worked in Staten Island, which was the only benefit. It was 10 minutes from where, like 15 minutes from where I lived, which is sweet. My job, so that was cool. But like my precinct, like the 122, for everybody to know that, it was very mixed. It was mainly white. It was like a white mainly contingency of people. So like I never really had to deal with like a race thing. I just had to deal with like a class problem, because you know people know Staten Island. Like we had Toad Hill in my precinct, and Toad Hill is some of like the richest property in like the country. Like it's like mansions up there. But then you go down.
Giuliani used to live there.
I don't know. Maybe I know Stallone had a house there. Like I know Robin from Stern Show had a house there. Like also everyone in the mafia has like a house there. That's like what it is. So like, so went from like that, and then in this my same exact precinct, it was like go down to the beach. It was like poor white dudes on heroin who were like, "Fuck you." I'm like, yeah, I know. like I get it. Like so, like we dealt with all that, but you know, it was weird. Also, though, New York City is also again very different from everywhere else. Like I only went to grand jury one time, and I've never even went to trial ever. So like, and most cops don't. The 90.
Well, Staten Island's different. Staten Island's different. I mean, if you're a cop in Brooklyn in one of the precincts, that's where I was an assistant DA in the early 2000s. You know, I knew the cops that were coming in from the 77 precinct, which is Crown Heights, the 73rd precinct, which is Brownsville. So like, I've got relationships with these guys because they would be coming in, making arrests, and I knew who the good cops were. I knew who the smart cops were. I should say that. You know, the ones that could explain an arrest and be able to get past. Past us.
How it always worked is like we would just only for certain like felonies for sure, and then only like certain other misdemeanors like domestic violence stuff. You would have to like go see a lawyer in the morning and just like draw it up, they called it, and you would just be like, here's all the paperwork, here's what happened, and they go, okay, and then you go home, and then you never hear about it again. Like that's it. And like I'm sure like the only time I had to go to grand jury was because this guy just constantly choked his girlfriend out, and then went to Rikers and like had like a no contact order with her, and just kept calling her, and kept breaking the. And then I went to grand jury somehow, and they're like, "What happened?" I was like, "I showed up and he was choking her, and then he went to jail. I go home, like, what do we? Why am I here? Read what I wrote.
I showed up and he was choking her. Okay, thank you.
What happened?
Got it.
So like,
Got it.
I guess that maybe Staten Island was different. I don't know, but like, yeah, I never had to do that.
You didn't have the volume. You guys didn't have the volume. So
I want to bring up what you brought up, though, Adam. You talked about class, right? I've been on a jury twice, and in both cases, one was criminal and one was civil, and in both cases, I remember the class division being crystal clear in my eyes. It wasn't based upon race, believe it or not. I mean, it was based upon class, and that's what it was. The trial I was on was a murder trial, and everyone who was middle class and above was like, he did it, and it wasn't even to the trial yet. It was basically just like, well, he did it. And everybody who was lower than middle class was like, maybe he's been through a lot. Let's see. The people who had been through it, or probably had people who've been through it, were much more open. And of course, you're not supposed to deliberate. We deliberated the entire time. I mean, we completely talked about the whole time we talked about it. We blatantly did not do what they told us to do. We talked about it the whole time. But still, you could see the people who were of higher social status, I would say, believed the system, believed the cops. And this guy got convicted with eyewitnesses who you would not trust if they told you where the McDonald's was, and no murder weapon.
Kirsten, did you hear that? Larry voted guilty.
I did
Larry,
not.
how did you do?
Yeah, I remember even like in the police, like local, like when the arrest happened, or like local, when you overhear stuff in the lawyer's office, like if someone who had money got arrested compared to somebody who didn't have money get arrested, like how they even got talked about, it was like drastically different, like wildly different. Like you could just tell, and like, and again, the level of crimes could be also drastically different, where the rich guy could have done something way worse. But they're like, well, it's his first offense. I'm like, what's the other guy's first offense too? Why is he going to jail in Rikers, and this guy just gets to fucking go home? It's like, it doesn't matter. You know who really gets away with everything? Pretty chicks. I've seen pretty chicks get arrested, and guys are like, you want to here's my gun, just hold my gun, walk around, do whatever you want here. They don't give a shit. They get to do whatever they want.
So that's the issue. Be a pretty chick before you do a crime. Okay, got it. That's
one.
The rules.
And then have money. If you have a pretty chick with money, you could run the city. You can just do whatever you want.
There we go. Doesn't matter. So that goes to a point, though. Is the system racist? Is the system classist? Is it both or neither? Right? I mean, we hear all the time racism. Is it really racist? Or is it just classist? Or is it neither? Or is it the cops are racist, or the judges are racist? Or is it just a system?
I think it's, again, kind of a non-specific question. I think certainly it's clear that some things in the system are racist and classist. For instance, when I think about the stop and frisk data from New York City, I don't know if someone doesn't think that reflects racism. I don't know that
all of mine were white people. What's up?
Like when disproportionately more black people are getting stopped and frisked, even though disproportionately more white people were actually found with the contraband being frisked for. I'm like, and then I can't remember, the mayor at the time came out and was like, yes, we should do that more. I was like, wait, what?
That was Bloomberg.
That was literally under my era of working there. That's why I said that as a joke. Actually, it's true because I worked in a white precinct, though. That's the only reason why. But they made you do it, and it's fucked up. I talk about it all the time. I still feel like shit. Like, I was young, and I didn't, whatever. It's not an excuse, but like, still, it's just like that thing of like, hey, that guy looks, like your sergeant would be like, that guy looks suspicious, and you're like, he's just walking. And he's like, well, let's go talk to him. And you're like, oh, we're here because you can't say no because it's like a lawful order. It's like that whole thing. And you're 22 and you're like, I guess this is okay to do.
And your sergeant tells you to do it.
Right.
I was
Why
a Marine.
would
I
you
get
lie
it.
to
The
me?
sergeant tells you to do it. You do it.
Adam, I just want to say that all of us on our little liberty path came from somewhere, and it's not really a big concern for me where specifically people have been so much as what direction they're going. So I think it's okay
I like that.
to give yourself a little
Yeah,
grace
no,
on that.
I don't want to give myself the
I'm
out
so
there. I
stealing
appreciate it, but I don't want to give myself the out.
That's good.
So, Kirsten, I'm gonna brush back on you a little bit
Sure.
on this, and I think when you talk about it, I can tell you my views on this have changed as I've gotten older. So not in the way you're gonna like, and so
Okay, we're gonna pile on you then.
So yeah, you can pile on me. And by the way, I am no apologist for the district attorney or the NYPD or any law enforcement. Larry knows that I go to war with these entities, but I will say that when I was
Hold on 1 second, man. I want to give you guys. You don't understand how he fights. He has literally said for a judge, "You want to put me in jail? Do it." That is literally what he has done. He
That's
will
some movie
fight judges.
shit, bro.
Yes, he is hardcore. Vin is hardcore. He will fight judges. He will fight prosecutors. He does not care. He is hardcore. So yeah, I wouldn't be sure. Let me say that because I know you won't. But that's
I just told a judge that if you don't stop playing games, I'm going to report you to the Judicial Screening Committee, and I'm going to make sure that the next time you're up for reappointment in the Mayor's Committee, they're aware of the bullshit you're doing right now.
Yep.
I got my adjournment when she was trying to play games with me on this case, which actually is a case that libertarians would eat up. It's about a guy who's making ghost guns in his home, a law-abiding citizen, and they executed a search warrant. And this is a U.S. Supreme Court case, bound case. But anyway, let's get back to stop and frisk. We could talk about that. So my view at the time, being a prosecutor, and I'm trying to remember when Bloomberg took over. Was it 2004? I think it was at the 2002.
Yeah,
right. So whenever that was there, and I think I left the DA's office in 2006, and I remember when it became controversial and all this stuff. And at the time, I used to think to myself, well, if you are trying to do community policing, it's going to be very hard to do community policing, which is getting the trust of your community to basically report the bad guys and build that kind of relationship, walking the beat, to build these kind of things and get people to cooperate with you. Fast forward a dozen or so years and the raids and the amount of shootings, particularly in these bad areas, right? These lower income, call it what you want, black areas, inner city, whatever you want to call it. I've spoken to a number of people who said they need to bring stop and frisk back. Black people who telling me bring stop and frisk back. So the idea of it, well, actually, one judge in the Southern District of New York said it was unconstitutional. Then the administration changed. Remember, so that decision by Judge Shearer-Sinlin has no what they call precedential effect because it's a district court judge. It never got to an appellate court because when de Blasio came in, he withdrew the suit. So, they didn't fight it. So, at that point, they didn't take it up on appeal. But the point is that the reason, and I've heard a number of black people in the city say you got to bring this back because people know, the bad characters know, we're not talking about contraband. That's not the purpose of this. It's to stop guns, right? So they knew that they went out and well, no, those cases were DP'd. On those things where there was a stop and frisk, if there's no probable cause to look for contraband, those cases were declined to prosecute. So there are tons of dismissals. So, but what I'm saying is that people knew, don't go out with the guns because you're going to get stopped and frisked. So there were less guns on the streets, with this thing. And I've heard this said by a number of people, particularly people who live in these neighborhoods.
So you're saying that, if I get what you're saying, you're saying that you're okay with it because it works. That's what you're saying. You're saying it's effective and it works.
I'm saying to the extent that in areas when you speak about disproportionate numbers of people, you are targeting high crime areas. You're not, prior to de Blasio coming to office, Wall Street was not a high crime area. FIJA was not a high crime area. But thanks to de Blasio, it is now, right? So I wasn't getting stopped and frisked, but I knew the people in Crown Heights and Brownsville and East New York. I'm speaking for the Brooklyn precincts that, I used to cover as a prosecutor. Were getting stopped and frisked, and guns were recovered. Now, it may have been a very low amount of guns, But that's missing the point that people knew they were going to get stopped and frisked, and they were leaving guns at home and not taking it out in far less shootings.
All right,
I think that's. Go ahead.
As someone who actually did this, this is let me wrap this all up for I think both of you, and I don't think either you're gonna like what I'm gonna have to say, but it's kind of you're both also gonna like what I have to say. So, Vin, you're right. It does. Of course, it works. Of course, that's gonna work. Of course, a bunch of uniformed police officers rolling out of vans. Flooding
or plain clothes,
or plain clothes, but flooding a neighborhood, just essentially jumping people, being like, "Run your pockets." Yeah, you're gonna find guns, of course, and of course they're gonna be illegal. I'm not saying, but if it didn't work, no, it also work if they all just walk through a neighborhood and just shot everybody, and you'll stop murderers. It's like that also works, but it's like my point is you're violating rights in the way. Because here's the thing, dude. Even though there's definitely pieces of shit out there who deserve to get. I get it, because again. Lived it, but at the same token, that's not like again, some lieutenant would be like, no, we're gonna do today, we're gonna stand in front of some door, and no matter who walks through, you're gonna stop them, ask them where they live, demand their ID, no matter who. So now you're being like, sorry, 70-year-old lady, but can I see your ID even though you clearly live here? Because this guy in a white shirt told me to, even because he's not a human being. I'm sorry, now I have to do this to you. So that's
that takes the randomness out of it, right? So then that's like a checkpoint, right? Everybody going through getting stopped, and that actually reduces the argument. Look, I'm not saying I'm not arguing for the constitutional
year-old woman around.
I agree with you on that. By the way, I agree with you on that. But the argument, if your sergeant told you to stop everyone going through the door, then that takes out the random stop. Right, that takes out the target.
No, it totally does, but it goes into now. You just again, okay. Here's how I always turn.
And that's been deemed constitutional, right? If you're checking everybody,
yes, that's true.
Then that's constitutional.
No, absolutely not.
No,
hold on.
I might know a little bit about this.
Guys, wait. Let Adam finish. Adam, go ahead, finish.
He's technically right because. Yeah, it's fucked up. Like, we don't think it should be, but he's right in the sense of even for checkpoints, which should be illegal. How they are legal is you go, we'll make it random. Stop any. It has to be like every other car or every blue car.
Not random. The opposite of random.
Right.
You have a pattern. You have to every third car or every car.
Yes, you have to make it random. So he is right. Again, it's fucked up, and I'm not saying that it should be, but he's right. That is technically legal and okay to do.
No, I have to say, I'm going to just chime in here for liberty because I think
please go ahead.
I agree with you.
we take too much. We cede too much ground when we say just because the government has defined us down to this narrow set of protections that is actually what defines what's legal and what's not. I am still fighting for full Fourth Amendment rights. And anyone who reads the Fourth Amendment, anyone who knows the history of our country and what the founders were trying to do should be fighting hard against that. I understand it's scary when people are hiding guns and may have an ill intent to use them. But I think we have a great example in the last couple of years of what's even scarier. And that is, look to Hong Kong. They, in the space of like 2 years, have gone from one of the most free societies in the world to Communist Party dominated China rule there. And if we are going to, if we're going to, I won't get into the argument there, but if you look basically back 2 years,
and a shout out to my girlfriend who's from Hong Kong. So,
but if you look back, it's clearly very different. Do we agree on that?
That's
true.
I mean, it's dramatically different. They lost a huge amount. They lost the right to trial by jury. It went from being not quite as robust as other common law jury systems were, but still pretty robust, to being at the government's whim. The government can now say, we don't want you to have a trial by jury, and they can make up any token excuse and you don't get one. They've lost that. And there's a reason they've been having protests to try and preserve these rights, and that's because they understand that the government is much more dangerous than their neighbors. And one thing that really bothers me about the stop and frisk is, what happened to libertarians understanding that carrying a gun is a victimless offense? That, yes, some people who carry a gun may have an intent to do ill, but that doesn't mean that we should pull everyone into the legal system just because they had one on their person. That is something that should be covered by the Second Amendment. Again, I mean, I'm sure the government will say that's not legal, but
Yeah, they
We should be
definitely do.
fighting
But
for
I
that.
agree. No, I agree with
Yeah.
you 100%. And my comparison to like we were talking about the random stop and frisk at the door entry thing. I always say this. I go, yeah, cool, dude. But like, imagine every time you walked into your home, so it's like, hey man, let me see your ID before you enter your home. You're like, fuck you. Like, how many times until you're like, I want to fight this guy? Like, that's what I'm talking about. So it's like, that's the shit where like you feel like a piece of shit doing that to people, like who just like, again, some guy's coming home from work, he's in his construction shit, he's fucking has a family, and you're like, I know you're not here to shoot up the whole building, but again, white shirt told me, give me your ID, dude. And he's like, fuck you. I'm like, fair. Yeah, totally. I get that. Like, I get that too. Because when I go to my house, no one stops me to go into my door. So that's all I'm saying. It's just,
Yeah.
And on the topic of like most of these were do not prosecutes, how many resources were expended on that? How many people's lives were disrupted? How many people were publicly humiliated by that? How many people, because of that, have now a lot less trust in their government? I mean, there are a lot of effects of that, even if they didn't get prosecuted. The criminal legal system punishes people a lot before they even get convicted. And that's one of the ways they do it, is by dragging them through all of that. So I don't think we should just write that off.
Let me grab a couple of comments. Some people commenting. Karen says, I read my area's police blotter today, which is horrible because these people have not been convicted, and 90% of the arrests are for drug possession. It's terrible. Wow, that's not supposed to be happening anymore. Aren't we like legalizing cannabis and trying to make things better and stuff?
sure are.
Well, Kirsten, let me. I agree with most of what you're saying. So let me clear that. I'm expressing to you the arguments that have been put forth by a number of blacks who've lived in the inner city that have spoken to me, saying they want stop and frisk back because they want their streets safer. Right? Now, the counter to that argument can be what you're talking about, which is arm everyone. Right? And I had a roommate right out of college who was from Texas, and he said, Vin, the armed society is a polite society. And there's no road rage incidents in Texas, is my understanding, right? Because everybody's packing. So if everyone's packing, well, then maybe there's going to be far less harm. So I believe in the Second Amendment. I believe there's a constitutional right, and I defend clients who are charged with gun possession.
Right.
I mean, the flip side, though, is there is some balancing of this, and no constitutional right is absolute. And I agree with you on the Fourth Amendment. I mean, Larry and I have, spoken, and he's seen my views, particularly during what's scary. Forget Hong Kong. How about New York City during lockdowns, right? Yep. I mean that to me, the fact that I could even have these conversations about people that at the beginning of lockdowns, Governor Cuomo designated what was essential and what wasn't, right? And he said cops and prosecutors and liquor stores, I'm all for liquor stores, were essential, right? But not criminal defense attorneys. So yes. I wrote a piece. I wrote a piece that night he arrested. I got angry. So I just went and I started typing and I sent it out. And the Daily News published it the next morning. And by Sunday, criminal defense attorneys were essential. Now, but put that in a bigger context. New York and Michigan, I don't know Michigan with Governor Whitmer, she's a wacko, but were the only two states in the country that didn't designate all lawyers as essential. So one of the things that I wrote about was that the New York State Bar Association, which didn't fight for lawyers as a legal profession, I fought for criminal defense attorneys, and I posted a thing, I got published, and so we got declared, I mean, that caused a little stir, and we got declared, clearly Cuomo hurt me, but the flip side is, why weren't all lawyers, essential? And then, you're in a society where the Bar Association was talking about forced vaccinations and put this out. And I said, what is wrong with these people? And I believe, and I'm just like, I agree with you. There is nothing more dangerous than our government gone unchecked, particularly in New York City.
tinfoil hat Adam checking in.
Go ahead, Adam.
They did that because they're trying to fucking control everything and shut down the narrative. What do you what do you think all this was last 3 years?
Of course.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people
the flu. Shut up. It's crazy.
Right.
What I think a lot of people don't realize is how similar New York and Hong Kong were in terms of jury trials. There was a 9-month period in the first year of the pandemic, but from the start of the pandemic to the end of that first year, it looks like there were 9 total jury trials in all of New York City.
Right.
9, a single-digit number. And admittedly, jury trials are a tiny minority of all criminal prosecutions being adjudicated. Most of them are settled through plea bargains.
Less than 5%.
Yeah, but
pretty
still,
much nationwide.
1 per month. That's nuts. And again, we have a 6th Amendment right to a speedy trial.
Not according to the governors.
Exactly.
Not according to the federal government, who just wiped all that away for 2 years.
Yeah, and nationwide, in various courts, you are looking at over a 2-year period, 14 to 16 months of that, no jury trials were operating. When jury trials were operating, they were at a very diminished capacity because they were trying to set up courtrooms for social distancing, and they were trying to do different things for juror selection and whatnot. So we basically have a massive backlog of jury trials now. And
Yes.
I understand your point that no right is absolute, but when it comes to the 6th Amendment and the 4th Amendment particularly, I'm like, there's hardly any of those rights left. So I'm kind of not super sympathetic to it can't be absolute. I mean, it's like nowhere near absolute.
I think
not even close to it.
I think what you saw was the governments, and particularly, the left governors and mayors basically shut down all civil liberties and dissent, and you saw that, and they want to see how far they could push.
Yeah. How long?
See, Adam's right. It's a big conspiracy. He's right the whole time.
It's not a conspiracy. It's true. Everything I said 3 years ago is just true now. Every single thing I've said for 3 years is just true, and I'm so sick of being called a conspiracy theorist. It's like, at what point was I the conspiracy theorist? Of all the true things I've said, just early because I'm not dumb. Like, it's obvious.
If we look at the amendments, though, I look at the First Amendment, and how long were newspapers shut down by the government? Not really at all. Churches?
Newspapers, the left-wing media, and the left, and the whole thing is this is coming from the left.
Weeks to months for churches, but jury trials. Let's look at that and let's break it down. If you were getting indicted, no problem. We kept those grand juries going. We put them on video if we needed to. We could do them in person. We had all kinds of ways to keep grand juries going during the pandemic. But the kind of jury where you could actually establish that you're not in trouble, those got shut down.
Right, but not just, let me tell you, actually it was worse than what you're saying. Because grand jurors, Cuomo suspended in New York what's called 18080, which is the right to be in front of a grand jury within 6 days. He suspended that for months on end. Wow. And then, so people got arrested, and if you couldn't make bail, you were stuck, right? Yeah. And so it was absolute insanity.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
And that's one of those things that drives me nuts when people are all jumping on.
Sorry, my sensor light.
Let's repeal bail reform. Well, okay, let's look at that. You know what? If you talk to me about getting rid of bail reform when you can give everyone a trial by jury within 60 days. Otherwise, I feel like we shouldn't be talking about keeping people in prison for months and months, and even some cases years beyond a fairly reasonable speedy trial deadline, although it's certainly not what the founders would have thought. But
so let me do a little bit more admin if I
could. During an outbreak.
Hold on. Kirsten,
are you serious that I can have sushi while we talk?
Eat, have your sushi. Eat, brother. Eat. Have some food. I'm doing some admin. Go ahead and have your food. Absolutely. Guys, if you like what you're hearing, please click that like button. It does matter. The more you click the like button, the more I get past those algorithms, because Adam is correct. There's a conspiracy against me to keep me off and to not so I don't grow. So please click that like button. There we go. See, Adam too. Adam got thrown off Twitter. Luckily he got brought back. That's right. He got brought back. So good. Absolutely.
Want to hear how I got brought back? Did I ever tell you how I got brought back? Did I tell you what I said?
You did not. No.
I appealed like 7. So I got banned August of last year, right? I got unbanned like 2 months ago, whatever. And how I appealed like 6-7 times between those 6 months. The one that got me back, I swear to God, I said, your new boss said we're bringing comedy back to this website, and I was making jokes. So let me back on. I swear to God that got me back. I swear to God that got me back.
There we go. I love it.
Let's go, Elon.
There we go. I love it. So, guys, you can also follow him. You can follow Adam on his original one now at AdamNutter. Yes, absolutely. You can also follow our amazing lawyer if you want to at Varghese Assoc PC. If you are listening to this on a podcast, that's VARGHESEASSOC PC. Or also you can follow Kirsten at FIJA National. That's FIJA National. Check her out there on Twitter. And of course, you can super chat me on YouTube if you want to, or heading over to, if you want to, theadvocates.org. Support my sponsors, please. There's a police accountability survey. Take that survey, or the world's most political quiz, whichever one you like. Share it online so people can see it, so we can have more conversations like this. Supporting my sponsor for free. That's a good thing, for free. Let me grab a couple more comments if I could. Some people are commenting. And of course, the Libertarian Podcast messes with you and says, is Adam on the show to represent the criminal?
Tyler rides a bicycle, so whatever he says is irrelevant to me, okay? Tell Tyler to go ride a bike, loser.
There we go.
I'm kidding, I love Tyler. But he does ride a bike, and that's crazy. He's a grown man. He's a man with children that are teenagers. Stop riding a bicycle. Get in a car.
That's good. Teresa says, community isn't handling it. Sick of human shit and watching drug trade right in front of my business. The past 3 years, it has become ridiculous. I think Teresa has a valid, question. We have to do something, right? And look, I agree completely with the idea of discovery reform. And when I was running, I thought bail reform should have been done, kind of to Vin's point, more for first-time offenders than anybody else, right? First-time offenders, give them a chance. But if you've been arrested 3-4 times in a row, you got to stay in jail, even though that sucks. And I think what you're saying,
if you can get a jury trial in a reasonable amount of time, there should not be an unlimited. You're just stuck in jail because we accused you of something serious.
I agree, but I'm just being forward. The choice is I let someone out who has been accused 3 times, maybe even convicted once or twice, right? And the stats show, I'm not saying it's true, but the stats show, if you've been convicted 2 or 3 times, you've been arrested 4 or 5 times, you did the thing, right? You did it. You're guilty. You did the thing.
I agree.
Right? I'm just
statistically. That's probably true.
You did the thing.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Maybe true. The point is to keep the government in check. They have to be held.
As a criminal defense attorney, I will say you always presume innocent, Larry.
Yes, I'm saying statistically, you did the thing. That's all I'm not saying you did it. It's possible you didn't. But if you've been arrested and convicted a couple times, you're arrested again, you probably did the thing. And Teresa's point, now I'm going to let you back out, you're also probably going to do it again.
You know how to stop
I think
I'm just saying that.
Am
I wrong with this?
Let businesses and private individuals actually enforce property rights.
And legalize drugs so that they can open up their own storefront and not do it in front of your business.
For sure. But
I agree.
Like, if you let people actually defend their property, be it business or not, because I'm sick of the notion, like especially this is a very lefty notion over the riots over 2020 and stuff, where they're like, property isn't equal to human life. It actually is, because a lot of those people, that's their fucking livelihood. So like, stop with the bullshit where it's like, people think that, first of all, I think 99% of insurance, some crazy amount of insurances don't cover.
Yeah, they call it an act of God. Yes,
they don't cover riot insurance.
Right, and so the left, I'd see these comments because I see people who own businesses, pharmacies who got looted. And remember, there's one guy in Philadelphia put up pictures, and people were like, "Oh, his insurance will cover that." I said, "When are you going to get these payments?" Right? Yeah. You got to shut down. He's got to feed his family. He's got to feed his employees and their families.
And how much will insurance cost next time he has to pay it?
Of course.
Yes.
I mean, it's going to be ridiculous.
Yes. I do hear people, and look, I get the point. Someone will say, but Larry, if someone is stealing something, right, should the penalty be death, right? And I get that logic. No, the penalty shouldn't be death. I agree with that. It should not be death. But if I am physically there and you are stealing from my store, and that's how I feed my family or put my kids through school,
Agreed.
and I shoot you, you know what? I'm okay with that. I am.
Totally
I'm
agreed.
okay.
The rooftop
And if
Koreans are heroes, in my opinion. I'm serious. Like,
and if you happen to get
yeah.
killed,
That's
you know,
right. You're making the decision as a grown person to break into someone else's property that they work for. You're not entitled to a goddamn thing in my home, anything I built my worth on, or my stuff.
And
Fuck
I think
yourself, I don't care.
We should keep in mind that if people were allowed to carry guns and not get stopped and frisks and have them stolen from them, then the calculus would change for people who were committing property crimes, because they would know their risk was substantially different than
way
perhaps
higher.
most of them would be.
So
I might get shot in my face if I break into this guy's car.
Yeah.
So for all the libertarians out there who live in New York, there's hope on the way. I mean, you guys are familiar with the Bruin decision, which invalidated New York's licensing regime. Well, New York State responded and basically did the same thing, right? Yep. So the cases are going to make their way. And so what New York State court judges in a concerted effort, like together, these all got together, they went to judge school, and they said, this is how you stop these things and people challenging the law on Second Amendment grounds. You say they don't have standing, right? So in order to bring a constitutional claim, you have to have under the law what's called standing. That means your rights have to be effective. And so what New York State judges are doing is saying that you have no standing because you never applied for a license and weren't rejected, and therefore, you don't have standing to bring a Second Amendment argument. Nonsense. Because this is going to make itself back to the Supreme Court, and New York is in for a day of reckoning. And this is what I'm going to be using to defend my client, who was not out there, he may have been building a little arsenal, but, he wasn't out there hurting anybody. He'd never robbed anybody. He wasn't concealing. He was in his home building guns. So, we're waiting, and this is reference to that judge I spoke to you about, was trying to force me to go to trial. I said, trial? I need statistics from the NYPD about how many people actually applied, because that'll blow your standing argument out of the water. Because if you have no chance to get a license, because they're going to reject everybody, right? I'm waiting for the numbers. I kind of know what the numbers are, but I have a FOIA request into the NYPD. I made it last fall. They tell me they'll get to me in April. Well, I said, I need to adjourn past April because I need to file my motion. Judge says, no, you got to go to trial. I said, Judge, you're not a lifetime appointment. I will, tell the mayor's they're going to appoint me, and all of a sudden I get my adjournment. Yes. I mean, it's
that gun thing is true. From so back when I was still working for the NYPD, and my parents were still living in New York at the time, also in Staten Island. My dad was he had a gun. He applied for a gun license because he was working like security part time, like as a side gig. And when he applied, they asked you like any members of law enforcement. He's like, yeah, my son works for you guys, and they went. Don't give a shit, and they rejected him the first time. They had applied 2 or 3 times, and again, he's at the time he was like a guy in his 50s at the time, never arrested ever for anything. We never have even like a fucking ticket, and they're like, nope. Why? He wants to work security. Who gives a shit? It's like they just do not give him out.
Yes, it's embarrassingly bad how that works. 100%. So Ray says, I want jury duty just for a chance to use nullification on a wider scale.
Well, you better keep your mouth shut, Ray. Not mention the word jury nullification.
Don't say anything.
Go to my website, FIJA.org/jury duty. I've got training to help you get on the jury by being truthful but neutral in your answers.
Go. Roger says something that's really interesting. Right? Roger says, want people to not to get a jury duty, pay them a real income to serve. I think that's a valid point, right? I mean, if people actually got paid to be on juries, they'd be more open to being on juries.
There's a reason they don't get paid, and it's interesting because who has a lobby? Prosecutors have a lobby. Criminal defense attorneys, to some extent, can lobby because it's
not as much.
Yeah, I want to be clear on that, but to some extent. But that's because it's a job for a while for them.
Yeah.
But jurors you're one and done, maybe twice and done. I don't think I've ever heard of anyone who had jury duty 3 times in their life. There may be a few.
I see it.
But you're never going to
Yes,
lobby for a
I
pay
will be that
raise.
person next year. That will be me next year. Yes, I'll be on the jury 3rd time next year.
And
Well, that would be-
Larry, you're never getting on a jury again, man. I was like, when was the last time you were on a jury?
Who lobbies for juror pay? Because there are so few jury trials to begin with, and the jurors themselves, you're not going to lobby to get paid, well for a week. That's
Right.
not a thing you would engage
Well, but
in.
some of these juries,
But
I
yeah,
mean, it's 2,
they
3,
should be
4,
much
5
better.
weeks sometimes too,
Yeah.
though. So they
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
If jury trials were just a week only and that was it, you'd have more people serving. But sometimes it's 3 or 4 weeks. The one I was on was
Yeah.
two weeks, maybe more than that. Plus, it was several days before we got selected. Right? You got to call in the Thursday or whatever. I forgot what it was. And then several days before, and you show up and do nothing for like 2 days. Then you finally get selected. Then you got to get interviewed. And so yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
So
It's
yeah, I agree. I think
ridiculous.
Roger's perfectly correct. He's right.
Yeah, I totally agree. as
I
well.
think some kind of business incentive or some kind of tax break or something along those lines. Businesses are overtaxed to begin with, right? So like if I run a small firm, if I were to lose my admin I wouldn't be. This would wreck me. So one of the ways to get a jury duty is extreme financial hardship, and who can really afford to the people that are wealthy and on salary, or other reasons, people who are on public assistance and enjoy the $40 they get a day for meals.
It really
Yes.
bothers me to think about how it changes the idea of a jury that represents the community when everyone who can't afford it kind of is self-selecting out.
Yep.
We're looking at there is a study I read that I thought was really interesting that had a great example that illustrated the importance of that kind of diversity on a jury. It basically said that people who are higher income, white collar workers, if they're told that someone was carrying a knife when they were apprehended for an alleged offense, the higher income people, the wealthier people, tend to think, oh, they were carrying that because they meant to do someone harm or threaten someone or something like that. Blue collar, lower income people with less wealth tend to think, well, maybe they're carrying it to defend themselves, or maybe they use it in their job.
Open boxes or something.
Yeah, exactly. So without anyone having any ill intent, or any conscious intent to be unfair to someone, just selecting out people who can't afford to be on jury duty changes the character of the jury and how the jury is going to interpret what it sees.
So the scientific libertarian has a joke for us. He says, better 1,000 innocent men are locked up than one guilty man go free, white shoots. So yes. But speaking of that, I want to go to something that I think is topical on this. And that is the QAnon shaman guy, right? The guy who got 4 years, I think, in jail for January 6th.
Yeah.
41
I bring
months,
this
right?
up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something like 3, is it 41 months? Yeah, whatever. Yeah, you got a bunch of
41
time.
months.
Not that I think he should or shouldn't have gotten in jail. That it's not the question I'm saying. But the recently Fox News showed all the tapes, the videos of the 40,000 hours of the January 6th events. His lawyer didn't get that. Is that fair or not? Right? There's a part of me that says who gives a damn, but his partner goes, no, wait a minute, that guy, he got screwed. His people should have been receiving.
Tinfoil hat Adam showing up again. Hi. Yeah, that was the whole thing was a conspiracy to fuck these people over. Yeah, where have we been the last year? Yeah. No, January 6th was a joke. What coup? Suck it. This is crazy. They walked him around almost hand in hand like an old woman. They're like, look, and now we're in the middle of the room. Take your pictures. Okay, come on, guys. Now we're gonna go in here. Ooh, now take your pictures here.
But my point to this, Adam, is if I'm his attorney, right?
Yeah,
I probably want to show that to the jury to see if the jury's going to go. Yeah, the jury's going to go, oh, this is not as bad.
Of course.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to make January.
Yeah.
I had to hear for a year and a half or however long that was ago now that January 6th was worse than 9/11 by a psychopath from the left, okay, and then cucks on the right. So I am over this. No, everyone there got fucked. No one should have went to jail. Not a single person. No one should have went to jail. The cop who shot that lady in the neck should have went to jail.
I'm upset that Trump didn't pardon them. Be forward. I mean, they went there, whether you think they were bad or good.
Fucking joke.
They went there because they believed that Trump told them to do something. They believed that. That's for sure.
Well,
they weren't just
dumb.
randomly doing stuff.
I'm not
They
saying they're
believed it.
dumb. They're definitely dumb, but that's
They
not a
went
crime.
there because they thought Trump told them to do it. And why didn't Trump pardon him?
He's also dumb.
He's
they're
selfish,
dumb.
is what he is. He's looking
Well,
out for
that's
himself.
That's true.
It's a bunch of dummies doing dumb shit
So-
by a bunch of alien pedophiles. I don't know. Like that's who's
So
corrupting
then
him.
tell me, is this grounds really for him to get off, or I'm just upset? I mean, is this really a thing? Was it unfair?
Well, as you were speaking, I am pulling up his docket report. It's something I pay a subscription for. Anybody, you can actually go on Pacer, any citizen, get an account and pay for it to look this up. So I'm.
Well, you're looking. I'm gonna ask Kirsten. Kirsten, do you think I'm right on this or no?
Well, I was just going to make a joke about harmless error.
Oh, it's a harmless error. That's all it was.
Yeah.
Yes,
There
I
is a lot.
couldn't show everybody that. Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot that I've heard people who are outraged about the January 6th defendants, like their speedy trial rights aren't being respected. This, that, and the other thing. This information's not coming out, and I'm like,
Different
yes,
ballgame.
that's all
Fed's
true,
court.
but that's how it's been for a long, long time. You're just noticing it now, and I mean, it's not funny in that I find it amusing that that's true. It's funny that it's like suddenly when it's people you care about, now this issue is important to you.
Right.
No,
I
agree.
understand
agree with
that's
too.
human nature, but
Yeah.
yes, that's probably going to be allowed by the courts.
I
Is
agree.
it wrong? Probably.
I shit on the left a lot this podcast, but now I'm going to shit on the right for a minute because this is my point with like the lockdowns is a good example. And when everyone was like, well, the cops are arresting people for opening their business. What the hell? I'm like, oh yeah, no, they're not your friends. I don't know if you guys knew that or not, but like they're not.
Yes.
And now you guys, but here's why they're dumb. For a year, they're like, oh yeah, fuck you guys. And then as soon as like something else went their way, like, oh yeah, the cops are heroes again. You're like, oh, you guys are so dumb. You guys, so they're never gonna get it, and the left's never gonna get it. So we're screwed. They're never gonna get it.
Linda, you've made Linda angry by saying it bothers me that the U.S. is being compared to the communist-controlled Hong Kong. See, so
I want to make
Kirsten,
clear
you
that I
made her
don't
angry.
think we're as bad as that. I want to make clear that I'm making that comparison to say we should be vigilant here not to become that. That's my
I
point.
like that. I like that. And Dustin brings up abolish the Patriot Act.
Agreed.
Agreed. 100% on board. No one's fighting you on that one. You got us all yes on that one. Absolutely.
Yeah, what else
yes.
are you gonna say? Like puppies are awesome. Yeah, man, we know.
Yes, we got it. And they are. That's right. Sam says, don't forget the empty the prison of violent offenders while they were arresting
True.
people for going outside for running their businesses.
So
Yes,
I have a
there was
question
some
about
of that.
for the New Yorkers.
Yes.
I'm in Montana for anyone who's not familiar with me, but I have had a hard time finding cases of people who were actually arrested for violating lockdown orders. And it seems like if anywhere would be the epicenter of that, I assume it would be New York City.
You know what it was? I think it was people would be like, I'm not wearing masks anymore. And they couldn't arrest you for that, obviously, because that's highly illegal. So what they were doing is they were just trespassing people from businesses and arresting them out.
Yeah.
You know, it's all loophole bullshit, but it's for the
Yeah.
mask, but they just can't say that. This is always what I say to dumb lefties who are like, the government never arrested anybody over the lockdown. I'm like, yeah, they didn't find anybody, right? Because the government can't come out and be like, if you don't wear a mask, we'll arrest you and fine you. But what they can do is say, no, we're not going to, hey, we'll never say that to you guys. But if a business lets you in their own business without a mask on, we're going to find that business and shut them down. We will do that. So it's like you are essentially doing that, but because you're threatening businesses. So they're going to enforce it to protect their ass, obviously. So it's just a workaround loophole.
Yes.
And I don't think any of these rose to the level of something that would be afforded a jury trial, correct? They're all too minor.
I would imagine.
No.
Just a business
These were
right?
felonies. Chansley, Jacob Chansley. We're talking about January 6th.
Hold on. No.
No.
She was talking
We should go back
about
to that, though.
the lockdowns. She was talking lockdowns, Vin. Sorry.
No.
Is it a little sidebar?
Now let's go back to the one. Let's go back to the QAnon guy. Go ahead, Vin. Tell me.
So I was looking up his stuff. He pleaded guilty and he pleaded guilty to a felony count of obstruction of justice. He had been obstructing an official proceeding. He pleaded guilty, and then his lawyer was retained. And this is what I don't understand: why he was held for so long. I'm trying to see here what his bond amount was.
About his case, right? His lawyer was clearly incompetent, and the worst part is, of course, he pled. They couldn't get the evidence that would show he wasn't that bad. Now, look again. I don't know. I didn't see all 40,000.
Everything I've seen on Twitter, like everything we've all seen for a year. What are you talking about? Just watch it. Watch it for an hour and be like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, I don't know that most defendants have that kind of resources to do that, because it may not be as simple as watching for an hour. It may be more like watch for several hours and.
Yeah, my point is right.
You have to pay.
So I'm gonna brush back a little bit on you guys, because to me, when I saw January 6th and I saw the video coverage and I saw people storming the Capitol, I got angry. I mean, and I have no problem with the cop who shot that woman.
Oh,
I have no problem. I thought everybody. The issue was, why wasn't the government? Why didn't? In my understanding, I know people who work for government. They said they knew this was going to happen. They didn't protect the Capitol and set up barricades to prevent that from happening. They knew that this would. What?
Who cares? It's fucking.
Okay, I care. To me, that's a symbol of America. And you know what? Like, you don't storm the Capitol. And the way they did it. Now, there have been certainly Tucker Carlson, showing scenes from outside. Not everybody went inside. Absolutely not. But for those that did. And those that did so in a violent manner, you saw the videos of some cop being choked as he was there, and others hit. This is a problem. So for those that did that, I have a problem with. Now the question of what he did.
That's my issue, right? I don't know if he was one of them or not.
Well, he said he allocated. It looks like he acknowledged he's one of the first riders into the building. He acknowledged using a bullhorn to rile up the mob, offering thanks and prayer while in the Senate to get rid of traitors, scratching out a threatening note to Vice President Mike Pence saying, it's only a matter of time, justice is coming. Look, he was inside. I don't know. In terms of 41 months, I think that sounds, I don't know. I'm not losing sleep over it.
My question isn't that. My question.
I'm not losing sleep over this guy.
I don't know. I think there's just fundamental difference.
My question is, a lot of people already took plea deals before that video came out. That is my question, right? The video wasn't released to the public until recently. That is my question. So
you don't get discovery to take a plea deal. It's not.
That's my point.
Yeah, that's
right.
I kind of see where you're going with that.
Well, actually, in the federal case, you do. You get Rule 16 discovery, and so in that sense, until New York, absolutely. In New York, when you're indicted, now the question, and I have to look and read this a little more carefully. I don't know if he got indicted first, or he did a plea, or his lawyers plea bargained out before you went to indictment and did what's called a pre-indictment plea. I don't know that. I'm trying to figure that out from looking at the docket. So, but normally in federal court, you actually get more discovery until the discovery laws were put into effect than New York State discovery. And New York State was way behind Pennsylvania, because I've gone pro hoc into state court in Pennsylvania. And other states are way better at discovery law than New York. That being said, in the federal government, now, because of New York's changes, New York is better than the federal government in terms of discovery now. So, but, it's I'm trying to figure out what happened here.
You're not really sure whether that's a difference. I'm going to go back to the other part though. I happen to think, I think the people to blame for January 6th, which sounds terrible, is the cops. I agree with you, Vin. That should have never happened. The cops should have said, "Don't."
They
come
had
in.
enough notice.
They knew what happened. They should have said, "Don't come in." They should have said,
Videos of opening the door and walking people
They were
around.
opening the door and letting people in.
We all watched the video. This is a crazy
They
argument.
should have said no.
This is
They
nuts.
should have just
They
said,
were
"No, you
literally
can't come
walking.
in."
They opened doors, let people through. This is insane. And people were just casually walking through fucking lines.
They should have let nobody in. They knew that it could have turned into a riot, and it did.
I also don't respect government or government property.
In.
Like it's a building paid for by us. It's public
I know,
property
but you
as
don't
far
want
as
it to
I
turn
take
into a riot, and they knew they could have. Right? That's my point.
They could have prevented it. So apparently,
they did.
They didn't.
I know
they
from,
wanted that to happen. Obviously, conspiracy high.
I knew people that live in Northern Virginia, and they were saying they knew that this was a basically a jumping point for people to go into DC, and everybody knew it and did nothing about it. And I think that's the bigger issue. I know you're bringing up a different point. You're like, who cares, right? I care.
Well, I'm saying a lot.
And I think that they could have prevented that from happening. Because this is the third shit you see in third world countries. And I'm like, damn, this happened in Washington, D.C.
Right, if you're trying to by the way, Trump's a dummy. I don't care about Trump. But if you're trying to completely demoralize Trump and all of his fan base, how do you do that? Oh, I don't know. Let them do this and then bring the hammer of hell down everybody who went into that fucking building, which is so clear as day. And shooting an unarmed woman who was entering a building, a public building, not someone's home, not into a bank, a public building that we fucking pay for is atrocious. That's crazy to me that you think that's okay.
I think they should have formed barricades and prevented anybody from getting in.
Right, but they didn't, and they walked them through.
Hold on, I gotta be clear on this.
I mean, not everywhere. What are you talking? I mean, parts, maybe some parts.
Guys, chill for a second. I want to be clear. I don't think they should have shot Askey Babbitt at all. I think it's a terrible idea. However, I go with you, Vin. That should have never happened. That should have never happened. But once they let him in, once the cops let him in, you can't go shooting people at that point.
That's what I'm saying. That's two different arguments. Okay, we could argue if it got in.
No, but where she was trying to get in, they weren't letting her in. I mean, she was going through a window.
I know, they didn't let her in.
They didn't. They shot her. That's true, yes.
They shot her in the fucking neck. Which was the only violent death that day, by the way. Just want to point that out there. Not the cops crying on stage. They yelled really loud at me. Fucking bitches. Get the fuck out of here. Fucking cowards. I got shot at 3 times, by the way. I don't give a shit. I got shot at through a door. Shut up. Man up. You have a fucking gun. You have a fucking shield.
Speaking of shooting, let me grab a couple of comments. Johannes says, fuck yeah, rooftop Koreans.
Yeah, fuck yeah, Johannes.
I'm a big fan of the rooftop Koreans. For those who don't remember, during the riots, the Koreans in their markets, they got armed, they got on top of the roof. I'm like, you come mess with us, we're going to shoot you. They were like, you are getting shot. If you come rob us, you're getting shot. I'm a big fan. I wish there were more rooftop Koreans. I am totally, on board.
By the way, if Ashley Babbitt was on top of somebody, strangling them to death, yeah, shoot her in the fucking face, I guess. But that's not the case. That's why I want to make that clear. I'm not saying don't defend life. Of course, always defend life, but that wasn't what was happening. And always defend private property, but that also wasn't what was happening. It was
not public property.
I don't give a shit about. No, I don't care about public property.
No,
I don't. Not really. I don't, especially the Capitol where they steal my money and they bomb babies overseas. I don't care what happens to those people at all, and I don't care about that building at all. And I don't know why any of us do anymore.
Let's walk down some more comments. Come on, Adam. Let me do some comments. Patty says minimum wage for jury duty. I feel like it could be even more, but at least minimum wage, right?
Yeah, I mean, if the government won't obey its own minimum wage laws, that really tells you something.
There is jurors are paid like anywhere from
$15 a day.
No.
Not in New York, but in some states, yes.
Okay, but in New York, I mean, it's commensurate. It's like I think it might even be 40. I remember years ago hearing, but I think it might be more now.
Yeah.
Last I heard, it was $40 a day. Last I heard.
But how much of that do you pay in transportation to get there? And if you don't get called or to sit on a jury, you have to buy your lunch that day while you're sitting around waiting.
Yep.
It's like it could be theoretically even revenue negative.
That's true. That's a good point.
So.
Absolutely. Yes. Grace agrees with you, by the way. She says, agreed, Trump is more selfish than dumb. She agrees with you. There we go. I like that. We are right.
I agree with that.
Yes. Fair. There we go. Yes. Space says, J6 proves the left is so much better at PSYOP game. 2020 riots are so much worse, but Republicans are too feckless to protect their base.
It's a great point. They literally destroyed cities, and we're not talking about any of them getting shot.
Okay,
that's public
what
property.
city was destroyed? I think that's a little bit dramatic.
Portland, Seattle. They took
Those
an
are not
autonomous zone.
destroyed.
They took 4 blocks of Seattle and made an autonomous zone. What are we
You know
talking
how
about?
big Seattle
It
is.
doesn't matter. They're taking over your
What I'm
precious
telling you
public
is the
property,
city
everybody.
was not destroyed. A 4-block section was affected.
We watched
That's
buildings
not the
burn.
city. My brother lives in Seattle. The city was not
Do we all not watch
destroyed.
buildings burn? Do we not watch CNN saying mostly peaceful protests as there's giant blaze behind them as buildings were on fire?
That
we
doesn't
watching
mean the
different
city
things
was
on the news.
destroyed. It means that a small section
Well, Adam, you make me
was
choke on my
affected.
sushi.
But millions of dollars were. How much money? How much money did the 2020 riots?
You could say there was serious damage. I would not argue with you, but the city was not destroyed.
Okay, hyperbole. I'm a comedian, Chris. Give me a fucking break. but my point is, millions of dollars were. I'm assuming. I don't know the numbers in front of me, but I'm sure someone in the comments could look it up. How many millions and millions of dollars those cost compared to the Capitol? Who gives? It's like it's not comparable. And
I
so
think
wait,
it
again,
is
hold on, again.
comparable. If you look at the size, I wonder if I don't know how big the size was where people were there, but it sounds like it's probably not super different.
I think a bunch of people having a problem with one federal building is a lot different than a bunch of people across a bunch of cities across the whole country destroying private property is a bit different.
Well, I would agree with you that I'm much more concerned about the private property than the public property, but I'm not. I don't think we do ourselves any favor in establishing credibility by acting like the West Coast
Who's
is
paying
burned down or something.
Adam, who's paying to fix that public property that you don't care about?
We are, because
Right.
I'm forced at gunpoint to, or I lose my rights. That's why. So what are we talking about? Yeah, I have to.
My big problem with January 6th is not about the public property. It's that I do not like people trying to install a president who wasn't elected. And that, in my opinion, is Trump. I think there's facts to back that up.
So let me.
And I
let
wouldn't
me
even
grab
have a big problem with it if they were just like, let's just not have a president. I would be more or less okay with that, to be honest. Let's see how that goes for 4 years.
I got to tell you, I might have jumped on their side with the "don't have a president" thing.
I'm with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
I might have jumped on their side with that one. I might have, but yeah.
But
So
yeah,
Roger
this
says-
idea that we should go to a place where someone can indefinitely be president because people behaved badly is a bit.
I like this comment, Larry.
Yeah, Roger says the defense lawyer saying that they should have shot Babbitt, and the cop saying that's beyond the pale. Up is down, down is up.
Roger, I'm very offended. I identify as a comedian, not a cop.
Identify as a comedian. Okay. That's very good. That is very good. But no, Grace says $2.3 million in damage to federal buildings done in Portland during the riots.
Cool, I don't care about those either.
Yeah, I think that's just the federal buildings, right?
Yeah, I think that's off of Newsweek. But let me go. We're talking about Trump. Let me go to Trump now. And this one specifically for you, Vin. What does it mean?
Put down my sushi.
That's all right. You can eat. Well, it's fine. What does it mean?
This
when
is so
they
cool.
say
I never get to
was-
do this.
Dude, I want sushi so bad now. You've been making me want it so bad.
Now we're all hungry for sushi, Vin. It's your fault. So, what does it mean when they say they invited him to talk to a grand jury? I don't understand what that means. It sounds like they're trying to get him to come in and say something stupid so they can get him.
That's
how
exactly
I
right. That's exactly right. First of all, there's no such thing as an invitation to the grand jury. That is the biggest, most bogus thing that I've heard. And I commented on one of the news stations last week, and I was like, there's no such thing as an invitation to the grand jury. You're either a witness, you get subpoenaed. If you're a defendant, you don't have a right to testify in a grand jury if you haven't been charged. But once you learn of a grand jury, you can request to testify, and once you file under New York state law what's called a cross 19050 notice pursuant to the CPL section, then you can trust. I can assure you, I'm sure Trump's lawyers never filed a cross 19050 motion because under no circumstances would they allow him to speak before the grand jury. I mean, you want to talk about that would be the dumbest thing, any lawyer that allowed Trump to speak. and I don't like Trump, and I agree with you if I understood you correctly, by trying to install a president who was not elected, right? I'm with you on that 100%. I think he's a criminal, but on this issue, I don't think he's a criminal. On what the Manhattan District Attorney's Office is looking at him for, I think is complete nonsense. And I don't see how they sustain these charges. And the way that I've said this multiple times on different networks, I said, until I actually see the guy in handcuffs, he's Teflon Don. Nothing is sticking. And I think that this penny, and I can't say this on when I'm on CBS News, but this penny ante shit, which they're looking at him for, is garbage. And all it does, I was watching Bill Maher the other night, and he brought up a point. He goes, if they indict him, this is only going to help him. It's only going to fuel more people, because when you see this stuff, even people that are in the center or right of center or left of center, you have to be concerned at a certain point. You took your shots at him, you missed, and this is like, come on.
Yeah, no, the Trump psyop, not psyop thing. I use the psyop wrong in that sense, but it's so it's done, man. Like, anybody who still talks about Trump as like a thing, it's like, shut up. It's so irrelevant. It's sad. It's like going to the well. It's like using the same joke over and over again. It's like, but Trump, it's like, okay, that was 4 years ago. Like, what are we talking about? It's like,
but I gotta tell you what I think. This, and I'm gonna hang out with Adam and his conspiracy stuff, because I think the reality is the Democrats they do not want Trump to go to jail. They just want him to be wounded and hope that the middle ground people don't vote for him or don't show up or aren't excited. He's got about 35%, give or take, of the Republican base that will vote for him no matter what. No matter what, give or take in the area, no matter what he does, literally no matter what he does. But if they can get the others to not, then Democrats think they're going to win. So they want to injure him. They love Trump. Democrats love him. They can blame him for everything. My car didn't start. It was Trump. Exactly. It doesn't matter. They can blame him for everything. So I'm telling you, if Trump had a heart attack or he had like kidney failure, there'd be like 6 Democratic doctors down there, Mar-a-Lago, like, don't die. Here, take my kidney. Don't die. They'd make sure he would not die. They want to keep him so that he can be wounded going into 2024. That's my.
I don't think they. I think that there are. So what's left now, and this is what it appears, unless something secret, from the feds is coming out. I don't believe there will be any charges. You and I spoke about this, Larry, regarding the documents in Mar-a-Lago. I don't. If these are state prosecutors here and in Georgia looking to charge them and make a name for themselves, I don't see him beating Biden. So I think if you're the Democrats, lay off Trump. Let him run. You want him. You don't want DeSantis, right?
They do want Trump. That's true. Democrats
they want Trump. Well, then stop trying to put him in jail. Leave him alone. He's going to lose to Biden. But if DeSantis wins, I think that's the real thing. And I notice, and the real hardcore liberal is really scared. Because I watched John Oliver the other night on Sunday night. Did you see that episode? It was all about DeSantis. And he spent, usually he does some stuff. He did like 30 seconds of some other story, and he spent the entire show trying to on DeSantis. And I'm like, and it's clear, and sometimes even here, and I think for most of us, I think we're all mostly on the same side. And we might disagree about certain things, shooting Babbitt, not shooting Babbitt. We might disagree on that one, right? And maybe I should have laughed because she's dead, right? But but I will say this, on this issue, this is insanity. I mean, and the fact that you're spending so much time, I don't see how they get past. I mean, this hush money election thing was made in 2016. And I argued last week that I think this is all just a big publicity stunt for the Manhattan DA to deflect criticism from the fact that he didn't indict Trump when he came in, and he dismissed the inflation of his real estate values. And this is saying, hey, look, I'm trying to do something. If the grand jury doesn't come back and indict him, that's not my fault.
Blame it on the grand jury. Why not?
Blame it on the grand jury. There we go. Okay.
Such a great tactic.
Well, I think that's what he's doing.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, look, if he arrests Trump, I will say, listen, I was wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was wrong. Here's somebody who finally put it in. That still doesn't mean he's got a sustainable, winnable case.
Yeah.
Right. Let me do a little bit of admin if I could, guys. Guys, if you like this show, if you like what we're saying, or if you don't like it, I don't care. If you're watching still, please click the like button. It does matter. It is important. Please do that. If you're watching on Twitter, then please retweet this right now and follow these people. All their contact info is in the description. If you don't have it there, it's okay. You can follow Adam at AdamNutter on Twitter. You can follow Mr. Varghese on Varghese Assoc PC, and that's VARGHESE ASSOC PC on Twitter. Or you can follow the amazing Kirsten, and you can do it at FIJA National, all on Twitter.
I should just point out that's the FIJA account. So my personal opinions that I'm expressing here do not spill over into that if they're not jury related. So.
You know what you sound like, Kristen? You sound like a government lawyer.
I know.
On a panel. That's what they always say. That's their script.
Yep.
I'm here. I'm not representing the Department of Justice. I'm giving my own personal views.
Well,
bullshit.
My point being, there are a lot of people who would disagree with me about Trump, and I'm not tweeting about Trump or anything over there. So
There we go. Grace says Trump will be the boogeyman for the Democrats for generations to come. He's the gift that keeps on giving to the DNC. I do think there's some truth to that. I think he's made a lot. I see a big difference. I think to your point, man,
to some extent.
Difference between what I would call liberals and leftists. And liberals are more satisfied with the status quo and just want to stop Trump. Leftists are unhappy with everything and are kind of tired of hearing about Trump because they want their left agenda pushed. And if you're a leftist Democrat, your agenda is not being pushed. It's just not Trump. It's just block Trump, block him. They're not getting the minimum wage they want. They're not getting Medicare for all the things the left wants. They're talking about it.
But those are things. I think the left has gotten a lot of what it wants in Biden. And I think that Biden has become, that is the man who's in office is not the man who campaigned.
No.
Who sold the country. Who sold the country on being a centrist, and I'm going to restore decency and normalcy. This dude has been extreme.
He's doing Trump-like things on immigration. He's pulling back on criminal justice reform. The things that he ran on are so different from what he's doing right now.
Well, I think we're talking about different things.
It's like, oh, you mean
you're saying he's not doing enough of things he promised on.
I agree. We're talking about different things, but
I'm just looking at it like, oh, the guy was a piece of shit forever is being a piece of shit. No way. It's crazy. It's insane.
That's one of the things too. I think we should keep in mind that both Biden and Trump, they're no spring chickens, and they may not be in the best of health for very long. So it may be that time.
Well, I do believe Trump is the spawn of Satan and will not die, right? And so, how does a guy who eats freaking fucking fried chicken and the meals that he lives and is like, nothing, COVID almost got him, right? But short of that, that was just the devil telling him, listen, I'm still around. You better do my bidding.
that's actually pretty good.
Larry, I do want to address you talk about leftist versus liberal. I think there's whatever the Democrat Party is nowadays, it's because it's an amalgam of three things now. I think it's just never Trumpers. That's just one portion of them. I think the other portion is the far left progressives who I cannot stand because they're destroying culture and society. That's another giant part. And then you have the old school liberal part where they're like, we just care about stopping war and drugs were cool. What happened to that? Like the old school Democrats, the 70s Democrats, but they're rarer now. Now it's mainly the other two now it's mainly the other two things taking over. And the right is just old school conservatives who
religious right.
Who cuck to the narrative. Again, Michael Malice has a great quote, right? He goes, the GOP is just progressives driving the speed limit. That's all they are. So that's them now. And then you have some other people on the right who are just a little more maybe value driven, but like they still kind of suck. There's like two good people on the right, and everyone on the left.
But
is
Adam,
terrible.
you have never Trumpers across the spectrum.
No, for sure. But
Right? You have tons of conservative,
for sure.
right wing who are never Trumpers.
No,
you
for
got
sure.
middle of the roaders who are never Trumpers.
For sure.
I myself am a never Trumper.
No, for sure.
Right?
So I think the left really breaks that down more so than the never Trumper. I feel like is more prevalent on that side than the other sides. Is my point.
Yeah, I think a lot of Republicans, particularly neocons, have become almost Democrats. A lot of neocons
They just
have
want
become
their
Democrats.
policies instead of the other.
Yes.
War.
Yes, they just want war.
Just want war.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
we see that now.
War and cracking down on social media and
Right, yeah,
cracking
all
down on
the,
women's health care
stuff
and
to
things
stop-
like that.
Yeah, they just want war, and both sides love war. We see that right now with the
That's true.
Ukraine-Russia thing, right? You have both people on the right and left being like, "No, we should do war." And we're like, maybe we don't do that though because that's bad, right? And they're like, "Nah, war."
And I give credit to Trump. Listen, I'll give it as much as I dislike him and think he was a terrible leader. I think, listen, he didn't drop bombs on anybody.
Well, he did, but he didn't.
He did.
Less than others.
He did, but he
But less
didn't.
than others.
He did continue the drones. I'm sorry. You're right. He did continue the
Here's
drones.
what Trump didn't do. He didn't start any new wars. Give him
That's
that.
true.
He
Right.
didn't end a thing though.
Well, no. I'm gonna give both Biden and Trump a little bit of credit here. Both.
Yeah, Biden pulled out.
Trump did.
Congrats.
Trump did negotiate the Afghan pullout. He did negotiate it. That's true. He did negotiate it and make it and start it. So I'll give him credit for that. And Biden pulled out terribly, but he did pull out.
There's
at
no
least.
good way
So,
to do it.
Yeah,
I don't think.
I agree with
take
that.
our
I'll
shit
give
back
that.
probably would have been number one. Like take the stuff with us
Right,
and then
yeah.
leave. That was
No,
what I
just
would have
I
done.
would have liked that. Yeah.
Let's pack up the cool stuff and let's go.
All things considered, I'm a little surprised that it happened at all. So I'm kind of like ready to call it.
I am
in.
too,
That's what I'm
actually
saying.
surprised.
It happened.
Yeah.
I'm not happy the way it
like, no
happened,
way.
but it happened.
And I have to give, you're right, I got to give
Take
Biden
it.
credit.
By the way, that's the only good thing Biden's done in his presidency. And can I tell you the coolest thing Trump done in his presidency? The coolest thing. He made it a felony to hurt animals. And I was like, yeah, you get it.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, here we
Okay,
go. I
but-
didn't even know that.
Why can't we hurt animals?
You want to
can.
kill a dog? I mean, you
need-
can,
he
but
needs cats.
you
I
probably
think you guys were against government, big government. I think that's big government.
Yeah.
killing a
Especially at
dog.
the-
How did Trump make it a felony to hurt
I'm sure they
animals?
made it. I'm pretty sure they made like a federal. I'm pretty
Okay.
sure like a federal law. It's like
He was
like, I'm
either
pretty sure.
either did it or he was trying, but like where in the Constitution is the federal government authorized to do that?
Don't know.
Right.
But I remember there was a
Kinda
thing.
not
The
there.
federal government should not exercise police
Yeah.
power, right? And so that's a whole other larger. And this
God,
is
I
where,
wish that were true.
right.
I don't know.
Yes.
Don't hurt dogs.
Grace says Trump made it a 7-year sentence
He
to
did sign
abuse
it.
an animal. That's
Told you.
Yeah. Grace
Wasn't
is
lying.
behind
I
you.
knew it was in here somewhere. I have a lot of brain
Yeah, there
trauma
you go.
with fair,
It's
but I
bounced
knew it was
around that
rattling
ring,
around here
Adam.
somewhere.
It was
Yeah.
there. I love it. I love it. Excellent. Well, so let me then, if I could, go to the last piece, which Ben, you're talking dealing with right now, which is gun control.
He's looking up the Trump animal thing for sure.
gun control is a thing that drives me crazy because as we
I'm sorry. I think that's a terrible bill. I just looked at it.
All I know
and
is the
says-
animal
it
part. It
says-
could be more.
I mean, federalizing this stuff, this should be prosecuted at the state
Yeah,
level.
exactly.
I mean, this is a terrible law.
Whatever. Don't hurt animals.
I agree with that. I love dogs. I absolutely adore dogs.
There-
But at the same time, it's like there's a
This is
reason we have
something
every-
that's going to get
that kind of
challenged,
thing.
and under this regime, under this thing, is going to be like, how is this a federal crime?
You know, okay,
Right?
you know what there is? It's like that thing of like
Look, if you shoot an animal on federal property, fine, right? But like, I'm trying to understand how
it's
this
just one of
is
the it's one
a
of those
federal
things where, like,
crime.
okay, you know how like I'm against the death penalty, right? Because for sure the government has put to death innocent people, 100%, right?
Yep.
I am too.
But if a pedophile gets caught, we should kill that guy around like on the spot,
No,
right? Like
absolutely not.
right.
I don't.
Crazy.
Yeah, I don't approve of pedophiles. But when was the last time anyone escaped from death row? I think it's happened maybe once in my entire lifetime,
I don't know.
and they were quickly apprehended. So I will, even in cases where I have a strong dislike, to put it mildly, of someone's actions, I will argue that we should not be basically giving the government the power to murder.
Oh wait, you're right. Let me rephrase what I was saying because you are right.
Sure.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I meant to say as a community, we should kill that guy on the spot. And I was serious. I meant to say that. I just forgot to say that part. I'm serious. I think we should be like, well, they convicted the guy. Like, put him through trial, right? Put him through trial. And they go, no, we have enough evidence.
And then just turn him loose and not
And then I just
whoever
beat
got
him to death with my bare hands, right? That's a good, I think that's fair. We as a community do it.
Okay. No. Hold on. I don't like the government executing anybody because if the government says someone's a pedophile, I don't believe the government. So I think they just decided that's a political enemy. They just called him a pedophile. I don't believe. Now, community, and you find him, maybe the issue is now, Adam, maybe you should be able to, they'll arrest you, I guess, because you killed somebody. But then they'll go, why'd you do it? Oh, he needed killing. Okay, you're out. Thanks.
Yeah, it was because I killed the pedo. They're like, we get it. High five. I get a high five.
Exactly,
That's
And if you go to a jury trial, your jury is most likely going to have at least one sympathetic person. I think
it's happened before.
They just need to know that
sympathetic towards whom?
Towards the
person who beat the pedophile to death.
Yeah, accused of assaulting or killing a pedophile.
It's happened before. I've seen people.
Oh, of course. Yes. They're going to have more than one sympathetic person.
There's actually a case. I can't remember where it was, but a man who had been molested by a priest as a child, as an adult, wanted to basically go get the person who had sexually abused him to at least admit what he did, and the person wouldn't, and he got a little emotional and hauled off and hit like an elderly priest and was prosecuted for assault. And he admitted it. He testified. He admitted it. He said he shouldn't have done it. He wouldn't put himself in a situation where he would get that emotionally wound up again. But his jury didn't. They acquitted him of one charge, and I think they hung on the other charge. And basically, we're like, yeah, you shouldn't have done that. You kind of know that is putting you in prison for 3 years gonna make this situation better? Probably not. They probably didn't know it was 3 years. I think that was on.
Who's the guy? David it's not LaFleur. That's a fake name from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. But the guy who shot his kid's molester on camera. It's famous. It's like the karate instructor.
Oh, I remember that guy.
And as he was getting transported betwing things, he was at the phone booth pretending to make a phone call. And turns around, just boom, right in the head. He didn't get, I don't think, any time.
Yeah. I remember that.
Did he have a jury trial, or did he just? They were just like, yeah, we're not prosecuting this one.
He might have went to try. I honestly don't remember. It was the 80s and I wasn't alive, but the story was awesome.
Yeah, I do remember that one. Let me grab a story from Sam. Sam says, the guy who robbed my professor and then shot her and dumped her body did it while wearing an ankle monitor. They found a notebook with him planning. The appellate court reduced his sentence. Her name was Professor Edlin Chun, R.I.T., and in my opinion, the New York justice system failed her memory. He then goes on to say, I hate the idea of state executions, but when things like this happen, my heart wants something different from getting 3 hots and a cot. And I gotta say, I understand his emotion.
Yeah, me too.
And if it was someone I loved or cared about, I'd want them dead too. I'm still against the death penalty.
Yeah.
Even though I would be a hypocrite, to be forward. If it was someone I loved, I would be a hypocrite. And I'd be like, I want him dead, right? With that in mind, I'm glad that I can't use my emotion to make that happen. If that makes any sense.
And one thing that I also kind of find interesting is we all understand that sort of on a internal level, I think.
Right.
But then you look at people like Botham Jean's brother, who it wasn't a death penalty case, but the cop who shot his brother when she went into the wrong apartment, he came out and said, I don't want you to have any time at all. And that's something that's so like, how could you possibly want that? But I think about those people, and I think, in death penalty cases, is there any way for someone to say, like make ahead of time some sort of, I don't know if you call it an ethical will or some sort of statement ahead of time saying, like, if I got killed in this way and death is an option for the person who shot me, can I say that I don't want that because that's something that
crime isn't necessarily
like Minority Report.
Against you.
Yeah.
Crime is against the state.
Right? No. I understand
but
that's what the state says.
Correct. Yes. Right. The state says the crime's not against you.
Yeah,
The crime's against the state. They
Well,
don't
we're
care
gonna
what you
prosecute
think.
it, right?
I reject that. I reject
Yes,
that.
I'm with you, but you know where I was going with that. Let me grab another comment. It's kind of off topic, but it's on topic too. Sandra is talking about some serious stuff. She goes, solutions for the TikTok car thefts by youths that have become a widespread problem affecting many of us on a daily basis.
I don't know what this is. Like,
There's like a TikTok challenge, steal a car challenge type thing. So the kids are doing it to show off.
Oh,
So
if
they're,
someone
like,
steals
stealing
my
cars
Bronco,
and
I'll
such.
kill you where you stand. Just for the record, anybody out there, if you steal my Bronco, I'll kill you. Anyway, continue.
There you go. Maybe that's the solution, Sandra. Or people having guns. We've covered this already. And you've got your TikTok guy watching you, and you get shot live on TikTok. Maybe that is the answer. I'm not sure. But no, it's a serious problem. That kind of crime of people taking stuff, and I think you're finding particularly younger people feeling like, to your point earlier, Adam, stuff doesn't matter, right? I don't care if I take your stuff. You got a car, I don't. It doesn't matter if I take your stuff. Why are you so mad? You're rich anyway because you own a car or whatever. That type of thought process. And then TikTok, it could be anything, but social media,
Right.
making it okay. Like it's okay because other people are doing it. So clearly it's okay. It's just a joke that I stole your car. It's a gag that I burned your house down or whatever is the thing that I did. It's a joke that I stole stuff from your mom and pop store. It's just so I could to do a cool TikTok prank or whatever. How do we deal with that? Or is that even a thing?
It is a thing. I Googled and one article I found, let's see, I don't know where this was, but it looks like, Chicago, Cook County Sheriff Tom Dart said their most prolific offender was 11 years old. So that kind of complicates things because you can't treat an 11-year-old like a 23-year-old.
Definitely is hard. No, you're right, for sure. But Larry, I'm going to go back to what I said about an hour ago, how we handle this. Let people defend their property rights. That's it. You let people handle it. Like, if you're an adult, don't kill a child, for sure. But like, if you're an adult stealing a car, hey man, whatever happens to you happens to you. That's your decision. You're an adult. You know the consequences. The cops shouldn't be, like, I mean, if you can defend yourself,
right? I mean, it's a problem. Right? A lot of people who, I mean, to be forward, I did some things I shouldn't have done as a kid, and in theory, I may have stolen a car with my friends. Perhaps in theory, I'm not saying that happened. I'm saying someone like me.
Sorry, Larry, statute of limitations is run.
No, don't.
Oh, is that right?
Say hypothetically.
Okay, then yes, I definitely stole the car then. So yes, then I'm fine. So, and I was like 17. So, I mean, that should I look? Not that I shouldn't have been shot or whatever, but I was a kid, 17. I was a kid. I was stupid. I would never do that now. I was trying to be cool with my friends. I was doing stupid
for
stuff.
Sure. No, I get it, for sure.
I think
it's one of those things. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think part of the problem is that the way our legal system is set up right now, when we think someone did something bad to me, our immediate reaction is to hurt them. And I'm not sure that's the best way to deal with a problem like this. We should ideally be looking for something to make them think about what they did and think about why it's a bad idea and make them have to make up for it by perhaps working or doing some sort of restitution
I do
something like that. We need to expand our vision of how to deal with this beyond just like hitting someone back when they hit us kind of thing.
No, I like the idea of somehow they've got to pay you back somehow. I think that's a much better form of justice than just let's put them in jail. But again, if the crime is against the state, it doesn't matter, right? If the crime is against you, then it matters. And the crime is, what I can't stand is people say all the time, well, he got justice. What happened? He got 5 years in jail. Yeah, but I still lost my car.
Yeah.
So how's that justice?
That's what I was going to say. And that's
a lot of time for a car. It's a lot of time for a car, Larry.
I'm just saying, whatever, right?
If we go like you said, I was a 17-year-old kid stealing a car, and like I totally get I'm still dumb. I'm 36. Like it's like I get it, but like also at the same time, let's say you're watching your car get stolen. You don't know how all these people are. You're just in like, oh, that's my work truck. I'm not thinking like this kid might be 17. He might not be. You're like, I need to fucking stop this. Like it's not black and white. It's so gray. Like
it really isn't. Like it's hard to
It is
tell the
gray.
difference
That's my
between
worry.
a
It really is
17-year-old and an
Yeah.
18-year-old. But for me, I'm gonna daringly go out there and say this: if an 11-year-old steals my car, I'm not shooting them, even if I have my gun.
Again, I said you probably shouldn't shoot a child. I understand that, but that's not what I'm
Like,
saying.
But
some of them,
but I like what you're saying,
yeah.
though, Kirsten. Kirsten, what you're saying, which I like, is all right. Some 11-year-old steals my car, right? Maybe I have a gun, maybe I don't, but I decide to not shoot the 11-year-old. I try to stop him. If he's faster than me, then I don't stop
I'm
him.
gonna
If
try
I'm
and
faster
track
than
him
him, then I
down
stop
later.
him.
Their picture
Yes,
might
and
be
that's
on
the point.
social media while I try and find out which of my
But
neighbors
the next
is the
thing is,
parent.
the 11-year-old probably has parents,
Yeah.
right? So shouldn't those
You
parents
beat
be
up the
responsible for that
dad. I
kid?
agree. You fucked that dad up.
Wasn't
You're
going
like,
there,
I
Adam.
want to do this to your child, but I saved it for you.
I have glasses. I'm not nearly as into fighting as you are. These things were pricey.
All I'm saying though is
wanna
then
get
maybe
him back.
if I it's my work truck, to your point, Adam. This is my work truck.
Yeah.
If I lose a day of work, hey Pop,
That means
Mom,
something.
you gotta
Yeah.
pay me
Yeah.
for my day of work that I lost because your
And-
dumb kid stole my car.
And we need a better way to do that than, you have to file a lawsuit, because it's
Yes.
just not worth it in
Right,
most
it's-
cases.
and
the
it-
amount
it-
it
how
would
long it
cost you to
takes.
get
Right.
justice that way would be a negative economic transaction for you, because you'd spend more trying to get back what you were owed.
Absolutely,
But
100%.
we just need to have, I think that's where we kind of need to look for better solutions that aren't necessarily focused on the government. And that's not we can fix this in the next 6 months kind of thing. But I appreciate the commenter's frustration, because there are a lot of real problems that
100%.
don't have an evident solution that way.
Absolutely, I completely get that. Senna goes on to say that shopping stores don't need a lawsuit to get restitution from shoplifters. So maybe we follow that model, right?
right.
Maybe that's the model we follow.
Oh, we know why?
right?
Because that's
Maybe that's a
criminal,
better model.
right? And then it goes through the criminal thing, and then the judge goes, "You got to pay restitution." It's like a whole. That's why, probably, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, and
maybe.
the other problem with 11-year-olds in the criminal system is they're in juvenile court. It's not considered a crime. It's a youth offense kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
The rules are a bit different in most states. And the privacy issues for children are different. So
sure.
you
Right,
might
right,
not.
right.
I don't know that there's a evident way that would work in the case of a minor, but it could,
All right,
maybe.
Well, let me do a little bit of admin if I could here, guys. If you like this show and you're enjoying it, then please retweet it on Twitter now. I really need you to do it. Please do it. If you haven't liked the show yet, what is wrong with you? Like the show. You've been watching it. Click the button. What, you got a problem with your finger broken? I don't care. Use your nose. Click the like button. It doesn't matter. You should do it. It's important. Please do it. It does matter. And please follow these guys. I put all their information in the description. You just want to follow them on Twitter. It's easy. AdamNutter, Varghese, Assoc PC, and FIJA National, all on Twitter. Follow them all. Guys, I want to say thank you so much for giving me so long this evening. I appreciate it. Anything you want to say for us to wrap this up? Adam, anything?
Yeah, come see me do comedy. I don't talk about politics, I promise. I just
There we go. Yes,
jokes.
do that.
So coming out to that. Check out my 2 podcasts. One is called The Porcupine. If you do care about politics, actually, Larry, I gotta get you back on. I haven't been on since the first episode, I think. So come back on The Porcupine. That's available everywhere. YouTube.com/AdamNutter. And I have a comedy podcast that's absolutely no politics. It's called The Cult of Us. I do with the great Neil Wood, or as Larry says, nobody. But I do. That's available YouTube.com/Cult of Us. And come see me on the road. I'm doing the Delaware LP convention April 6th. It's at the Blackbird Community Center. I think I'm doing the Maryland one the day after that.
I still have your Cult of Us hoodie that you gave me.
I have to give you a new one.
I gotta wear it again. I haven't worn it in a while. Stuff out the
yeah, but
black
our
one,
logo's
I gotta wear
different.
it
I guess a new one.
Okay, there we go.
Come see me on the road with Robbie the Fireburns team the end of this month, March 24th and March 25th in Steamboat Springs, Colorado. That's gonna be a good time. So yeah, check out my shit.
Here we go. Kirsten, anything you want to talk about before we leave?
Absolutely. Larry mentioned earlier in this conversation that he had served on jury duty twice. I can't remember if he mentioned that he was a jury selection consultant for a while. But if you are interested in hearing how that can help you get on a jury as a fully informed juror, the Fully Informed Jury Association will have an hour and 15 minutes, I think, chatting with him about those things on
Next Wednesday.
Wednesday, March 22nd, noon Eastern. And I didn't quite get it all on the website before this, but in the morning, if you go to FIJA.org and look up at the top, you will find that the thing to click to either register for Zoom, or we'll be live streaming it on Facebook as well.
There we go. Absolutely. The man himself, Vin.
Well, I got a couple things to say. One, try not to get out of jury duty. I think it's critical. And if you're of the bent of Kristen, please, I love what you're doing, Kirsten. I'm sorry, I called you Kristen. Kirsten.
Can I tell you a secret? It's Kirsten.
Kirsten.
Yes.
She corrected me early on.
Kirsten. Sorry, Kirsten.
Yes.
You know, and you can imagine people mess up my name.
I bet.
Especially the guys from Staten Island. You know, but and the other thing I want to say is, you know what? Biden bad, Trump bad. We need Larry Sharpe in office.
There we go.
I don't want Larry Sharpe in office because I think it'll do bad things to his soul.
Yeah, it might. It's possible. You're right. That's good. So, yes. Guys, thank you so much for watching. For my audience, I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for being with me today. I will be back on tomorrow with my radio show, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Sharpe Radio out of Rochester, New York. I will see you all.